Welcome to Scorched Earth and the general reading for the sign of Pisces, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for Taurus season, or the month of May, or whatever you want to, wherever you want to put it. Whenever you see this reading, it's for you. I say that because time's become quite a complicated concept at the moment, and yeah, I'm definitely sensing the non-linearity of it at this point. Anyway, I hope you're well. I'm using the my Bulgarian 777 deck for you today. So, a couple of things before we begin. If the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. Link for that will be in the description box below. You're looking for the link that takes you to Selfie, or if you just want one video. Alternatively, if you want to see all of the extended content that I produce for no extra cost, you can hop over to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix on the Circle platform, and there you get all the extended content for all of the signs, plus all the weekly energy readings that I do, and they sometimes run to an hour long. Like they're quite intense. And you have the opportunity to participate in the Deccan Walk that we're running over there, which is really quite extraordinary. I cannot tell you how incredible that is. Plus, if you join at the higher tier, you can come participate in the live classes and stuff that we run over there too. So, if all of that sounds of interest to you, you know what to do with those links. Right, let's flip around here for a second. Pisces, can I share something with you? Because I feel like you above all people will get why I'm so fucking excited about it. I have been incubating duck eggs, and this morning my first duckling hatched, and like, talk about messages from the universe, right? It's peering at me through the glass of the incubator, and I'm like, hello, how are you doing? It's not glass, it's plastic, right? And it's got the most perfect duck bill, right? Okay, so far so good. But on its bill, it's got a perfect heart in black. And I was like, look at you. I actually get emotional, even just thinking. I've been getting emotional for days just thinking about baby ducklings, and now one is here, and it's come with a perfect heart shape on its bill. I was just like, that's ridiculous. That is utterly ridiculous, but I love it anyway. It's made me all joyous today, so there we go. Right. Well, that's the other thing that we were going to talk about. So what we're actually doing here today, put my ducklings to one side. The first most important question that we can ask ourselves at this time is, where am I? Right? What's going on with me right now? What are the things that I should be aware of at this time? So we'll pull 3 cards for that initially. And then in honour of it being Taurus season, and through the work of the Deccan Walk, I've actually seen that very closely related to the idea of problem solving, maybe even resource management and stuff like that. But certainly, like, this idea, and it came from the 5 of Pentacles, this idea that if we did nothing different from this point on, other than what we already do, where would we be in 5 years' time, and is that acceptable to us? Because and it's focusing on this idea of the 5 of Pentacles representing a fear of lack rather than the lack itself. And so then as we progress through the 5, 6 and 7 of Pentacles, which are the Taurus cards of the minor arcana, we're sort of moving towards this state of trying to work out what we need to shift around. So it's a kind of problem solving layer that we're looking at here today. And then beyond that, the second most important question that we can ask ourselves, which is simply, what is the next step? I don't think anything else really matters at this point. And planning forward and all that kind of thing, yeah, it's great. But like, time, dimensions, space, everything is existing in the same place simultaneously at the moment. And so the only thing that really matters, the only thing that is really important is where you are right now and what you're going to do as your next step. And everything else, well, yeah. Anywho, so let's get 3 cards for Pisces, please. Where is Pisces right now? So we have the 2 of Cups on its side, and we also have the Fool. That's interesting. We have the World card. Okay. And we have the 7 of Pentacles. Interesting, since we've just mentioned that. That's one of those Taurus cards. At the bottom of the deck, we have the King, rather, of Wands. Now, that's a Leo card right there. But in terms of an energetic presentation, it talks about what we do. Right? The Queen of Wands is very much all the things thinking around what we do. To some extent, it's the understanding of why we do things and what we want to do and the reasons for that. Right? Our drive, our motivation, our passion, all that sort of thing. When we get to the point of the King, it's about how we action that, and everything that the King does is informed by what the Queen has processed beforehand. Right? So. Interestingly, because the Queen of Wands represents the sign of Aries, and we have had a very turbulent Aries season, we're now arriving in Taurus season. It feels like there's actually a beautiful flow here in terms of you working a lot of things out during Aries season, and then here, now I've seen it, what am I going to do about it? And I like the fact that you are positioning yourself, it seems, for action, for what am I going to do about it, right? There isn't a state here of just grand acceptance of everything, whether it's, suffering or joyous at the other end of the spectrum. There's a real state of examination going on here with a view to practical ways to resolve whatever feels problematic for you. And it seems like the nature of relationships, or maybe a specific relationship that you have right now, but certainly the possibility of relationships is where all of this energy is focused for you at the moment. The Two of Cups for me, although it does talk about one-on-one relationships, and so we've got your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, friendships, business partnerships, anywhere where there is a degree of alignment and you choose to spend time with someone. For me, when you really dig around in this card, it's actually talking more about the state of intimacy, right? And whether what you're getting back, so maybe a reciprocity too, right? What you're getting back is matching what you're putting in, and vice versa. Is somebody putting in more than you are? And, if you're not putting in so much, what is the reason for that? What is the hesitation? What is the thing? Now, it could be that there are specific relationships in your life right now that you're looking at and you're like, there's something about this that feels off and I don't really know what it is. And I don't know if it's about the nature of the relationship itself or whether it is the person. But there's something going on here that doesn't feel quite right. Or it could be a kind of broader over the top sort of, are the people in my life en masse the kind of people who represent not just the ability to be able to break into a new cycle and really start doing something that feels meaningful. And I don't know why that word meaningful comes up, but it really does here. Meaningful and fulfilling, even just in terms of how one is experiencing one's life, right? Or I don't really want to or it, actually, to be honest, right? So here is the state of intimacy. And in the upright here, it's consciously acknowledged. There's something very conscious going on here, right? The Two of Cups in reverse will often speak to a breakdown of that kind of thing, right? So, people separating, friends falling out, business partnerships coming to an end, that sort of stuff. There's a kind of neutrality when it's put around like this way, which feels like it's being assessed. It's like, is this really for me moving forwards? And the fact that the Fool is here is an interesting one, because he does represent the start of a new cycle and, the initiation of a new fool's journey and all that kind of thing. But he also represents sometimes folly and naivete and a certain amount of innocence. And I think we have to be mindful of both sides of the spectrum when we are in a state of analysis about something, right? Because maybe what the Fool is here to do is say, actually, you need to be free from all of these relationships that you are currently enmeshed in. And I do feel like that is part of the story here, because the influence of the Fool on the assessment of the relationships around you followed by the World card, would suggest that there is some sort of closure, there is some sort of completion that you are looking to action here. Although I think you haven't quite got to the point where you've made a decision yet. And I think that that's the case because we've got the Seven of Pentacles here. Now, the Seven of Pentacles is one of those slightly obscure cards that a lot of people read as negative that I actually fucking adore, because there's something really significant in terms of the pause that one is taking to assess, to investigate, to analyze. Even that's a big 7-word, analyze. What is that feeling of something kind of gnawing away at us that isn't quite right? And I like the fact that we're taking the time to examine it rather than just trying to push on regardless, right? Because quite a lot of the time the Pentacles will just push on regardless. It's a slow-moving energy, Pentacles, Earth, but it's quite consistent too. So this pause moment is... And initially, when we look at the Seven of Pentacles, we could say that there is something in the environment that is not quite correct, right? And it's that same feeling that I was talking about before, where you've got that kind of like, something's just off here and I can't put my finger on what it is. Quite often, if we have got issues that are bubbling around in our own emotional state or our own mind, we can kind of second guess that feeling and be like, oh, am I just being reactive? Am I just being overly emotional? Am I not seeing here something here? So this pause for reflection in anticipation of bringing something to an end, and I do feel like you've got that awareness of something coming to closure, coming to completion, but where is it? like who is it? What set of relationships is it? Is it all the relationships? Is it time for you to move on? Let's get the Edmund de Lac Tarot out here. I fucking love this deck so much. What about this? Two of Cups and Fool here, please, for Pisces. Right, we've got a reversal. It's the Ten of Pentacles. Interesting. Now, the Ten of Pentacles, another Pentacle card, right? It's slow moving. And the Three of Cups here. And there's the Fool at the bottom of the deck again. You feel to me, Pisces, a little bit like you're toing and froing on yourself because you're not quite sure if you are torpedoing something that is really, really important and structurally stable for yourself, or whether you are seeing clearly the end of something. Like, just like the World card, the Ten of Pentacles also in its own way represents some state of ending, right? It is the ultimate completion of what the Ace of Pentacles set out to achieve at the beginning of the cycle. And when we hit the 10, it's not happily ever after. It's okay, this is culminated, this is completed, and from this point on we move to the Ace of Pentacles and we start putting our energy into something else, because the only thing that is consistent in the world that we live in is that everything changes. And that's something that Pisces, generally speaking as an archetype, is much better equipped to handle than most, except that you are sort of hovering around this at the moment, right? Because if the Ten of Pentacles represents structure and stability, and like I said, the ultimate culmination of what you set out to achieve in the first place, and there is some degree of emotional support that you are gaining from this, then where the fuck is this feeling coming from, and what does it mean? Because if this was all clear cut, the Seven of Pentacles wouldn't be here, and the Fool is here twice. There's a push, there's a pull, there's a something, and in the middle of all of that, there's a little bit of confusion as to whether this is a really smart thing to do or actually really, really dense thing to do. And it's trying to work out how far, how far your own feelings are perhaps clouding the issue versus your own feelings are allowing you to see the issue really, really clearly. And those are two very different things. And they can reveal an awful lot if we spend the time digging around to work it out. Now, you're primed for movement. We see that with the King of Wands here, right? You're primed to do something about it. And I think you're equally as willing to do something about it if this problem is emanating from within you, as you are if the problem is emanating from somebody else within your environment with whom you have this kind of relationship. I'm gonna come back to ducklings again here, so bear with me. As part of the process of the incubation, right, you stick them in the incubator. You've got to keep the humidity at a particular level, the temperature at a consistent level, right? And then you just let them do their thing. And every few days you take them out and you candle them, right, just to check that everything is developing in there. And the first time you do that, you're looking for a telltale network of like spider veins, right? Because you've got one central point and these veins that are emanating from it. And it's quite extraordinary. The first time, I'm not getting excited about it, right? But it is extraordinary. And you're like, oh my God, there is something developing in there, right? But as you move the egg around, it all kind of bounces around inside all of the protective, egg white stuff that is in there. And the way that this relates to you is that I've got that imagery of you kind of bouncing around in this, and you're kind of like holding on to this thing and holding on to this. Here's the spidery veins, right, that are coming out and holding on to the edge of the shell. You're bouncing around and you're like, does a fish know that it swims in water? Right? Does a developing duck embryo know that it's bouncing around in, what is it, albumin or something? Right? Does it know this? And in the same way that I would assume there is some sort of thing that happens in a developing duck consciousness that says, this isn't quite reality and it's all going to change, and I have no concept of how it's going to change, but there's an inbuilt knowledge that it is. Why do I say that? Because they've got the little duct and they know to cut their way out of the egg. But do they have any sense of what will come thereafter? What will be the after? Possibly not. They just know that this isn't it. Not full time. Does that make sense, Pisces? I know this is a little bit abstract as a thing, and it's a little less to do with the people and a little more to do with, can you trust that feeling that you've got? Because to all intents and purposes, I think it is entirely possible that there are ways that you are looking at this that could make it some kind of, that could certainly lodge in your head the idea that this is maybe a really stupid thing that you are thinking about, right? Like torpedoing your stability by doing it, and yet the feeling doesn't go away. And I think you're looking for some confirmation of something somewhere, and maybe you might be getting a counter argument for it that is making you kind of go, yeah, but I know that this isn't, I know I'm not supposed to bounce around in this albumin forever. This is not my existence forever. Something here has to change. But can I take the leap of faith to do it when all of the evidence seems to be pointing to this being a really not necessarily one of my best ideas? Does this make sense, Pisces? Let's have a look and just shuffle that king back in. The nature of the issue here for you. The Hanged Man, the card of Pisces. Let's have a little look. What else does Pisces need to know about what they're working with right now? Ten of Wands, King of Cups. And the Page of Pentacles with the other major arcana card of Pisces at the bottom of the deck now. Now, what's interesting about this is because of the passivity of the Pisces minor arcana cards, most passive card in the deck, second most passive card in the deck, there is an interpretation that we could apply here that would say do nothing. Quite literally, do nothing. It doesn't mean, put some headphones on, blindfold yourself, and then, wrap yourself up like a burrito on the sofa and just zone it all out. It's just saying this isn't the time to make the decision yet. It's not the time for the movement yet. Even though you feel that energy starting to build, starting to rise, it's like be passive and observe. Because in both of these cards, we have the idea that the Hanged Man is looking to see things differently. So he's hanging himself up still from the opposite, way up that he would usually like to be. So he can see the world from a different perspective. It's very pay attention to, observe, and then assimilate that information. Equally, with the High Priestess, we've got this idea that she plays almost the role of a silent witness quite often. And because she governs, usually it's not actually happening here in this version of the High Priestess, who is absolutely extraordinary. Look at her. Look at her. She's usually depicted as standing between two columns, right? Which is, Boaz and Yahim, I think. Something like that, right? The end and the beginning. So she's governing the liminal space. She is also paying attention to what is ending and what is beginning, and understanding that there is no crystallization in this space of those things. She just simply needs to observe it, to witness it happening. Now, that runs somewhat contrary to what we feel your energy doing, which is trying to orient itself towards, now I have to do something about this. Again, even in the state of the Seven of Pentacles, there is an idea that pause to look around and see what is out of alignment is a precursor to doing something about it. We move from a Taurus card to a Virgo card in terms of how the minor arcana progresses there. And in neither of those examples are those two signs going to sit there and just watch everything go to shit. They're going to do something about it because they're very problem solving, very, very good problem solvers, both of those, right? And there's something uncomfortable about the way that this is suspended for you at this point, because there's the desire for movement, desire for change, desire to do something about it. But then there's the other side of things as well, which is saying, yeah, but maybe you just need to let this play out the way that it will, right? We've got the Ten of Wands here, so we've got another card of endings. It's another 10 showing up. We've got 3 cards of endings and 2 Fools, right? But we've also got a page here as well, so fucking hell, like 3 cards of endings, 3 cards of beginnings showing up in the same reading. The Ten of Wands represents a burden that we can't continue to carry anymore, right? And there are lots of different ways in which that burdensome energy can show up. But you see the man's back kind of bent over double here, carrying this enormous weight. And what's different in this card that we usually see in others is that there is no end point. You know, in the Waite Smith, the Ten of Wands we see from behind, and we can actually see where he's going just in the not too distant, path in front of him. He's nearly home. He's nearly at a point where he can put that down. The fact that we see this in profile means that what we're witnessing is a continuous action that does not appear to have any beginning, and it does not appear to have any end, despite the fact that it represents an ending, full stop. The end. What we cannot say about this card is that the end is in sight. And so we've got this Herculean feat of emotional endurance that is going on by you here, because we have the King of Cups showing up here, another masculine energy of doing. It's like you're carrying an awful lot here, Pisces. And I think part of the stress of the moment is fuck me, Pisces, you've done it again. Like, you always do it at some point in the reading where I have to try and put words to something that and I don't have the fucking vocabulary for it. It's almost like I need a whole new fucking language just to be able to speak to you, right? I'm going to in my very clumsy Leo way, do my best, right? And it's difficult because the words that are floating around in my head aren't quite it, but it's something about the motion of it. So there's a desire for dissolution here. but that's not the same as a desire for ending within you. It's almost like it's not a collapse, it's a really graceful, free-flowing dissolution into a state that is less tense, a state that feels like it has less digging around in you to do something about it, and more that it can just be. Right? And it feels like it has that kind of motion about it. And you're aware of the level of the emotional burden, and you're aware of the level of the emotional endurance that is going on with this. And maybe it's blind fucking hope and faith that this all just sort itself out that's keeping you going on the endurance front. But at the same time, there is a competing part of you that is saying, it's time for this to end, it's time for it to stop. But then there's almost like this confused little vortex in the middle that is saying, yeah, but am I just trying to do that because it would be easier? And easier isn't necessarily right, even though I want to, collapse into a state of dissolution with all of this. Am I just being really lame right now? Do you see what I mean? And in that state, it doesn't feel at this point like there is a correct decision that can be made. Because if you just sit and look at all of this, we know that it's burdensome, it's heavy, and it's taking its toll on you. But at the same time, if you were to allow that collapse into dissolution to occur, it feels like there's friction that comes with that too. And so it doesn't make things easier. It actually just spawns in a whole new fucking problem for you. And maybe the biggest issue here is better the devil that you know than you don't, because although this is really burdensome for you at the moment, you actually know that you can continue. You've got quite a bit in the tank when it comes to emotional endurance. But is it right? Now, this Page of Pentacles showing up here, I feel is quite a useful stabilizing force for you, not least because it's a pentacle, right? We're looking at the realities of the situation, and the Page of Pentacles for me feels like he's asking you to just step back for a moment. Now we're leaning into the meaning of the Hanged Man, where we're kind of like, we need to look at this from a different perspective. The High Priestess is playing witness to it. It's almost like the binary of do something, don't do something, is distracting you from the third way that can emerge if you can hold these states somewhat aligned for a moment, enough to see it. Because it's the second day of some very sunny days that we haven't had for a while, and it's like everybody and their fucking goat is out and enjoying the sun. Anyway, can you go back to the idea of what is actually important for you? I mean, sometimes the Page of Pentacles, well, always the Page of Pentacles is kind of revolving around this idea of value, right? And we can see definitely how that's been playing out for you recently. But there is also an emerging state of priorities that comes out with the Page of Pentacles, because the Page, the Knight, the King, the Queen of the Pentacles suit do work in a very efficient linearity, right? So whatever discernment is applied by the Page of Pentacles, this is what he passes on to the Knight, who passes it on to the Queen, who passes it on ultimately to the King. And that's where we get stuff being actioned, right? Particularly long-term plans and things like that. So the Page of Pentacles here is almost like a necessary interfering force that's saying, hang on a second, Pisces, it's not the binary of one or the other. Other solutions do exist, we just haven't noticed them yet. And we haven't noticed them because we're not actually that clear about what our priorities are and should be, beyond that of enduring. Now, I was going to pull some cards for the Page of Pentacles here, but I actually want to look at this Ten of Wands, because I don't like the fact that there's no end in sight on this one. In a card that represents an end, there is no end in sight. All things being as they are and nothing changing. Tell me about this Ten of Wands. We have the Moon. And the Devil. Yeah, and the Magician. I don't really like that very much, Pisces. There are two cards of obfuscation and illusion, both of them. One of them has a considerably more toxic flavour to it in terms of the Devil, but the Moon is as responsible for obfuscating shit as the Devil is. The thing is, the Devil will dress things up in a glamour of illusion, right? Oh, look at this. This is everything that you always wanted. And it's right and proper that because this is something that you wanted, you should work hard for it. Now it's almost like this endless toil that you feel emotionally is the price that you pay for having what you've got. But at the same time, you can feel that push towards an end, towards a completion. But then the Devil is saying, well, if you put this down, it's because you are, you know, you're not pulling your weight here. And what really, really tops this off as something that I don't like, Pisces, is the fact that the Magician is at the bottom of the deck. Because the Magician and the Devil are manipulators of reality. And the Magician, generally speaking, we largely consider it to be a good card. But that is quite literally what the Magician does. He manipulates reality. Now, we hope that it's for good things, manifestation, all that sort of stuff. We've talked about that sort of stuff a lot over the years. But sometimes it's just straight up fucking manipulative. So we've got cards of distortion showing up with cards of deep intuition, witnessing, and this grounding point of the Page of Pentacles saying, take a step back just for a second and have a look at this objectively. Can you do that, particularly with regard to your priorities moving forwards and where you want to invest your energy moving forwards? Because what you feel now, and this is very much of the nature of the Five of Pentacles, which kind of spurred this is how we're going to look at the energies this month, right? If nothing changes from what you're doing now, where are you in 5 years' time? Well, you're going to be exactly where you are right now. And is that acceptable to you? Because I feel like there is a possibility that somebody is tapping into your kindness and using it for personal gain. And if you are already exhausted by this, in 5 years' time, you can only guess how exhausted by this you will be, right? So there's something higher that's ringing around you saying, Pisces, it's time to collapse this all into dissolution. And I do feel that any objections that might be showing up in you, resistances, hesitations, all that kind of thing, they are more of the order of this than of the order of reality. Because it's one thing that the Fool is going to want to do, and he's doing it twice at you. It's break you free. Now you have, where are we now? You've got a scant 3 months left of the North Node being in your sign. In July, it's going to shift into Aquarius, and it's going to take some of the intensity off for you. But it does mean that we are wrapping something quite important up here. And for you, Pisces, as far as I'm concerned, a sense of self is always going to feature very, very highly in terms of whatever the significance of whatever life lessons you're in at the moment, right? And this feat of endurance here, whilst admirable, I don't see it changing in the future. And I don't see that being actually what you want, because you may have, an extraordinary capacity for this, but it's not limitless. And I do feel like whoever you are dealing with, whether it's a singular person or a group of people or whatever, I don't think they have an off switch in terms of what they are willing to make you work for. But it's all very well me saying that. You have to see it for yourself. And that's where the objectivity of this Page of Pentacles is kind of kicking in here and being like, is this in alignment with where I want to be in 5 years' time? If nothing changes, is this where I want to be in 5 years' time? So, so I'm a bit snuffly. I woke up a little bit snuffly this morning. I don't know why. What is the next step for Pisces, please? What does Pisces need to know? Well, we've got the Knight of Wands showing up on his side. Seven of Swords. And the Nine of Pentacles with the Wheel of Fortune at the bottom of the deck. I mean, this is a very, very strong indication to me that you notice that we don't have emotional cards here. We've got a card that's ruled by Sagittarius, and so fire, with the Wheel of Fortune. We've got the Nine of Pentacles here, Virgo. We've got the Seven of Swords here, Aquarius. And then we've got this Knight of Wands. Now, this is quite significant, even in terms of the way that the zodiacal energy is showing up, right? Aquarius is detachment, always. Right? The investment in a detached way to a situation. But the Seven of Swords is about taking a risk. It's about taking a strategic gamble. And the strategic gamble for you is actually the reclamation of your own independence and self-sufficiency. Because whatever has got its straw in your aura, whoever has their straw in your aura and is depleting you, that Nine of Pentacles is to bring it back to a state of, no, this is mine and you don't actually have a right to it. I've been giving and giving and giving, and I want to stop doing that now. The Wheel of Fortune is showing a change of direction here, and even that card in itself showing up is you're not supposed to be continuing to do this thing right here, because you will still be doing this in 5 years' time if you don't make the change now, right? I love the fact that this guy in the Seven of Swords is kind of, doing something by moonlight. There's obviously some subterfuge going on here, but it's very difficult to input what kind of motive, right? So I refuse to read this as just a negative card, because actually he might be doing something really fucking honourable. And in terms of protecting your sovereignty, maintaining good boundaries and things like that, that is an honourable thing for you to do, Pisces, particularly when the alarm bells seem to be ringing and you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm not really enjoying this, but I'm going to keep doing it, right? The winds of change are all over this. What's causing me some confusion is the Knight of Wands. No, okay, right, well, that makes sense. The Knight of Wands usually orients us in the right now, but the Knight of Wands on its side is pay attention to the right now, but we're actually looking forward. We are, propelling our consciousness from, I don't know, however old you are, right? My demographic seems to be around the 35 to 60 sort of age, right? Propel your consciousness forwards. And if you're 35 now, do you want to be still living this existence that you have right now when you're 40? Or if you're 40, when you're 45? If you're 50, when you're 55? Because I don't think you do. I don't think you want that. Tell me about this Knight of Wands. Whoa. Wheel of Fortune again. Said what I said, right? Nothing about where you are is supposed to stay static for the next 5 years, but whatever thing you are locked in with, whatever the nature of this relationship, and it could be a business relationship, it could be a boyfriend girlfriend situation, it could be anything, right? Whoever you are sharing this relationship state with, they have a vested interest in things not changing.
because you're doing a remarkable amount of heavy lifting here, Pisces. Remarkable. And if they are invested in it not changing, it doesn't matter how many quiet pleas you make for things to shift just a little, or the burden to be lifted from you just a little. They're going to stick their fingers in their ears and go, "Oh, you're so great, Pisces. You do such good things. I just love it when you do this and only this all the time." Right? They're not. This is a very clear boundary issue as much as anything else, and any push to change this, to make it more fair, more even, is going to result in recriminations and complaints and all those sorts of things, because the only people who are going to complain about you erecting boundaries are those who benefited from you having none. And I don't think you have no boundaries, Pisces, but I certainly think somebody's slipped under the defences here on this one. And the universe, God, source, creator, whatever your word for it, seems to be going, nah, no, I want Pisces out of there, please. This is not a good place for them to be. They need to regain their independence. So there you go. Right, I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to go over to the extended. In the extended, we're just going to simply ask what you need to know, because I think that this has been quite comprehensive here. So we're going to run a little deeper into all of this. Maybe have a look and see where the checks and balances that you've put in place in terms of your boundaries and your sense of self and so all that sort of stuff, where they may have failed. So like I said, if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I would, of course, be delighted to see you in either place. If you come over to Circle, you get to see a picture of my duck with a little heart on it. Just... of all of the symbols and shapes in the known fucking universe, my first ever... I'm 45 years old. My first ever duck I've ever hatched has a big heart on it. I mean, that just feels extraordinary. I feel fucking emotional about it. Anyway, you get to see a picture of that duck. And I'll leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much. Whilst observing your boundaries and asking, I think, nothing from you at all, other than just appreciating you being you. And remember that. Take care. And I'll see you soon.